Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry I didn't upload a video last night or this morning. Last night I actually did this video and my computer started behaving in the last 20 seconds of the video, and it made the video just unwatchable, so I have to do it again. But here we are. That's okay. I'll make it better this time. And well, here we go. Maxime Bernier did an interview with Ezra Levent of the Rebel Media. So I'm gonna look at the highlights from this interview, and he touches on some things that other politicians won't touch with a 10-foot pole. Ezra notes that, and answers some questions that I think are important. So without further ado, the first block is about immigration. So here we go.
One area of politics that I think the federal conservatives and almost everyone else in the country, especially in the media, is terrified to talk about, and at least in English Canada, and that is open borders immigration, illegal immigrants, and especially the Islamic nature and effect of some of these migrants, whether it's the hijab or the full face obscuring niqab in public or in courts. These are subjects that I think people want to talk about, but if they even ask basic questions or raise concerns, they're called racist or whatnot. Now, you've engaged in some of these conversations on Twitter. Is that part of your People's Party as well? Do you have views on immigration, multiculturalism, and integration and assimilation?
For sure, it is part of our platform, and I tweeted about that a couple of days ago. And we need to. This country has been built with immigrants, and immigrants that are they share the Western civilization values, and that's very important. So I don't want our country to be like in France, actually, right now, in Europe, where they have challenges with the integration of our new immigrants. We don't want that in Canada. So that is why we must have a debate about immigration. And I'm open for immigration, but I'm open with immigrants that will come here, like the one in the past who came here to share our Canadian values and our culture. They will come to our country. I want them to be able to have a job. I want them to be able to integrate our society. So that's why we need to have a debate on immigration. But the other parties, they don't want to have a debate about that. I think it's time to have this kind of debate.
My last interview with Andrew Scheer, and I think it's why he never came back, I asked him about some of the Syrian migrants. And I said, do you have any views on that? He said, well, we need to do security background checks. I said, that's true, but a lot of things won't show up in a security background check in someone from Syria. Questions about cultural compatibility, the equality of men and women, the treatment of minorities, the separation of mosque and state. I asked Andrew Scheer if he felt there ought to be any cultural fit tests. So not just a background police check, obviously. And he didn't answer me. Do you believe that we should have a test to make sure someone embraces Canadian values like the separation of mosque and state or the equality of men and women? I couldn't get an answer out of Andrew Scheer. Do you feel more confident on that question?
But first of all, as you know, Kelly Leach, during the leadership campaign for the Conservative Party of Canada, raised that issue, and she said that we need a test. So I'm open for ideas. I don't know how we will be sure that these people that are coming here are sharing our values and our principle, Western society values and principle. So is it by a test or another means? I don't know. I'm open for suggestion. Mm-hmm. Somebody told me, Maxime, if you ask for a test, they will tell you what you want to hear, mm-hmm. and it would be very difficult. Mm-hmm. So I'm open to find the best way to be sure that people who are coming in this country are coming for the real reason and are coming because they want to be in a country that is free, that it respects the rule of law, the equality between men and women, the distinction between the church and politics. So that's important for us. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what would be the best way to be sure that these people are coming because they share our values and they want to be in a freer country. But what happened in the past, if you look at the past 65 years, 70 years, people, they were coming here and they were sharing our values. So maybe we need to improve our system, but we don't need to throw everything out and start from the beginning. What we did a couple of years ago, the point system, it's a good system. Maybe we must improve it. But I don't have the solution about it right now. Right. And I'm open. That's why I'm doing this debate. And I'm looking for a solution or ideas from Canadians about it.
Thank you. I have just one more question on this. And again, even if you don't have a concrete answer, just the way you're thinking about it or your process is useful to me. I know that Justin Trudeau and Ahmed Hassan, the immigration minister, have talked about increasing the number of immigrants to Canada to 300,000 a year. I've also seen regular opinion polls that have gotten sharper against that. Less than 10% of Canadians, including according to the government's own polls, support an increase. Do you have any thoughts on the actual number? Should it be where it is now, around 250? Should it increase to 300? Should it be restricted? Do you have any views on that?
Yes. First of all, you're right that the Trudeau government, they want to have 310,000 people a year, new Canadians. They will increase that to 340,000 a year in 2 years from now. And they receive a report, the Barton report, and that report is asking for going up to 450,000 a year. So what I want us to go back on the average that we had, the average of immigrants that we had under Stephen Harper for the last 10 years that we were in power, that the Conservatives were in power. So it's about 250,000 a year. So I think we must go back to that number and being sure to integrate these people. So that's my goal. And I'm the only politician who has a number. All the other one are afraid to have a number. So around 250,000 a year, I think it would be a good start. And, I'm in line with 49% of Canadians that they think that there's too much immigration in our country. So, these people, I think they're right. So I'm not afraid to say a number.
Thank you for...
Okay, and I'm going to leave that there. Link is in the description. You can watch the whole video there. And thank you, Ezra, for being there and running this interview. It's good to be able to show the highlights. And sorry for that pause face, man. So there's a couple of things I want to touch on. He says at the beginning, we want to have immigrants who share our Western civilization values. And he's spoken at length about what those values are. He wants them to have a job when they get here. That's important. A hot button issue is going to be a citizenship test. And people on the left are going to be saying it like incredulously, like, oh, how could we possibly do a citizenship test for new Canadians? But really, guys, we live in a country, in a country that is a great country to live in, so great that people want to immigrate here from all over the world. Let's keep it that way by making sure that the people we integrate, or the people we bring here, share our values, share our common Western values. And yeah, that's important because we're a Western nation. And that's not racist to say. We have been a Western nation for the entire period of time that Canada has existed. And pretending otherwise is silly and short-sighted. So yeah, having a Canadian's values test or a Western civilization values test is something I'm interested to talk about. And I'm intrigued to see how the conversation will develop, because Maxime's not saying, yes, we have to do that. Definitely, we're having a citizenship test. He's saying he's open to suggestions. He said the point system worked. The point system was a system we used to use before we just opened the borders and let anybody in. So that worked. Why can't we go back to that? And he mentions he's the only politician with a number, and he's saying he wants to go back to the Harper years of 250,000. Right now, I believe we're at 300,000. Mr. Levent said 250 now and increasing. But Justin Trudeau's plan is to increase it to 310,000 next year and to 340,000 the year after that, 2 years from now. I don't want that. That's a terrible idea. That's an awful, terrible, awful idea. Okay, I'll get to the next clip in just a second. Okay, this is talking about CBC and potentially what he would do with the CBC if he was in power. Mr. Bernier, obviously not Mr. Levent. And Mr. Levent is very long-winded. I enjoy his interview style, but his setup is quite long-winded, so I've cut it down. So this is about CBC and media bias, and he's using examples from CBC that we're trying to pigeonhole Mr. Bernier. Okay, here we go.
Thing that happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. Let me call you for your response in 1 second, but I want to show just very quickly the tweets that were exchanged between you and Rosemary Barton. You wrote on Twitter, and this is on August 16th, you wrote, just saw this report which implies a timing between my tweets last Sunday and some violent demonstration in the U.S. How do you know that I chose to send my messages on the first anniversary of the riots in Charlottesville? This is despicable fake news. And then Rosemary Barton wrote back, how do we know you didn't time to coincide with that anniversary, given you won't give any interviews to anyone about anything you tweet? How about you answer some questions and defend your position in front of people? Then we can talk about what is fake. Thanks for watching. And then you wrote back, I'm just going to go a couple more here. You said, whether or not I give interviews, your job is to report facts, not unfounded and calumnious speculation. You admit you have no idea if there was a connection. I tweet almost every day and was not even aware of this event in the U.S. You were biased, unprofessional. And then the last comment by Rosemary Barton. Any politician worth his salt would have known of that anniversary. I don't care what you tweet. I do care that you won't answer questions about. I report facts based on what people say and tweet. The interview request stands, and we can clear this all up anytime you like. Now, I said that in my own dramatic voice, Maxime, but I have to say, the mask fell off Rosemary Barton for a moment, and we saw her true nature as a radical partisan, not as a pretend neutral journalist. I was shocked by that exchange. What do you think of it now that a month has passed?
It is crazy, And yes, you're right. She was a radical partisan, and that's a smear job that they tried to do. And for me, the CBC, it's funded by us, by people's money, by Canadians, and there's no place for that at the CBC. If they want to be a leftist partisan, they can go at the private sector and work for, but not work for another broadcaster, but not at the CBC. So that's why I proposed during the leadership campaign a big reform of the CBC, cutting their budget and asking the CBC to be like the PBS in the state. And people who want to give money to the CBC will be able to do that. And taxpayers won't be forced to give money to the CBC. So I was very disappointed at the CBC when that happened.
Yeah. Well, you are the first member of parliament.
And I'll leave it there. The interview is good. You should go watch the whole thing. I'm just gonna get one last bit, but I like this proposal. I don't think that we should be paying for leftist propaganda and calling it state television. Like, if I want spin, I'll go to a news organization that has spin. I want facts from my state broadcaster, and not the facts that are approved by the leading party of the day. I want facts, and I want the press to be insulated from the politicians. So, I mean, yeah, I support reform of the CBC and applaud Maxime Bernier for suggesting it in the first place. That takes courage. Politics is a dirty game, and taking on entrenched money and entrenched traditions like the CBC and like funding the CBC isn't easy. It's not easy. So having this position is in my opinion good, and the fact that he wants to share it, that's good. But it's still not easy. There's going to be slings and arrows. I mean, just look at what's happening to Faith Goldie's campaign. You piss off the wrong person, and their media empire blacklists you. Good thing John Tory is basically a Rogers family member. You can just make a quick phone call. Yeah, don't print those ads. Oh, I know it's against the law, but no, don't print them. That's our platform. Don't print them. Right, Mr. Tory? Anyway, back to Maxime Bernier. So I'll find that last clip. Hold on. All right, and this is just Ezra asking for any final thoughts from Max, and specifically anybody or what would you say to people still supporting Andrew Scheer? So here we go.
I'm grateful for your time today, and we've covered a lot of ground. Is there any other message that you would send to our viewers? Because I am going to email this video out to our people, because I think they'll find a lot of it interesting. They won't agree with all of it, but if you had one last message to say to our viewers, especially conservatives who feel like you should have stayed in the tent, what would your sales pitch be to them after all our discussion? If someone's paying attention now, what would you say to them to close the deal?
But first of all, I just want to say to you that for me, political correctness, it is finished, and we have to say what we believe. And what I'm saying to the conservative who are staying with Andrew Scheer right now, and they're not ready to be a part of our party, just watch us and look at our platform, read our platform, and you'll see that we are the real alternative, the real conservative alternative for this country. And I hope that we'll be able to have your support in the near future. And if you want to know what we believe in, go on the website of the People's Party of Canada.ca. You have the platform, and you'll be able to be a founding members also until the 1st of November. So be part of history, come with us, and all together we'll make this country great again.
Well, thank you very much, Max.
I love it. I love it. Quote Donald Trump. Yes, let's make Canada great again. Please, we need to. Go to the People's Party of Canada.ca. Check out what Maxime Bernier is offering. And man, yeah, we need some real change in Canada. And this guy is as authentic as it gets. People's Party of Canada.ca. Thank you, Max.